Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this is your host, Baquee Sabur for Muslim PPR. PPR stands for Prison, Parole, and Releasees. Today we have a special guest and a longtime friend of mine by the name of Adlee Abdullah Akbar. I consider Brother Akbar to be a specialist on reentry issues, and that will be our topic for this evening. I think it's best that Brother Akbar just introduces himself. So, Brother Akbar, I'd like to turn it over to you to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to whoever may catch this recording.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Thanks for the brief introduction, brothers. I'd just like to echo something here. My name is Adlee Abdullah Akbar. My organization is Akbar 3000, the Self-Help Coalition. I come on the behalf of Adlee Akbar and Baquee Sabur, referring to the center of the Empowerment Center, Oak Cliff Empowerment Center, at 3436 Bill Street. That's in Dallas, Texas, where we making this particular building one of our main hubs for returning citizens. And that's from support groups, mentor, at-risk youth, supports for returning citizens, free legal and medical services, food pantries, new Muslim support, and street dawah. Just a few of the name. I'm honored to be amongst this audience through Baquee Sabur, giving to the best of my ability of what I know and can say about people coming home from prison, which we consider returning citizens. And I guess I turn it back over to him now.
Well, I think we have a lot of catching up to do. You're talking about the Empowerment Center, and the Empowerment Center is new to the community, the one that exists in Oak Cliff. So I think it would be fair for us to try to catch the audience up on this reentry issue and what efforts have been made in the past and kind of bring it up to date. So it's my understanding, I didn't come into the Dallas-Fort Worth area until about 2000, but it's my understanding through you that there were some efforts made maybe in the late 80s and early 90s when it came to addressing people returning home from prison. And if you can expound a little bit on that and the people that you were working with and what you all were doing at that time, that would be great.
Well, if you would allow me to bring to the forefront two individuals that I worked with in the past, one named Muhammad Bey, who's in Delaware as of we speaking today. And the other one name is Luke Mon from a little town down by Tyler, Texas. The three of us had sit down one day and we came about trying to help those who we left behind. As I always state, we was free from our immediate task, and so we wanted to still labor hard, and that's what we did. So we came up with our first program, our first transition facility in order to house individuals. And that's what we did at that particular time. Just to catch the audience up on what's going on now is that I met Baquee, I don't know when year it was, it's been some years ago. And when he came into this city, he came in not trying to reinvent the wheel, but the brother came in with the same sentiments that we had at that particular time. And that's how he and I started admiring the situation about trying to help each other.
Okay. And so how did y'all do it? I mean, what kind of community engagement or community funding or support did you all have? What was the house like or the program like?
Well, our first house was a 4-bedroom home, and we supported ourselves. We were self-sufficient at that particular time. About a year later, we had got some help from an organization downtown that actually admired what we was doing, so they started trying to help brothers who didn't have money to pay their rent, and so they fulfilled an obligation for them. So we ran services out of that particular house. One in particular called Malati Islami, and that was a substance abuse program. If we knew what we knew now, we would have had a better project or a better standard for people coming home from prison. But as far as getting help from someone or from any Islamic community or church community, we did not do that. Like I say, we were self-sufficient on our own.
It's great. And so, and what was the time period? Like, you started late 80s, I think. And what was the reason, if any, for the discontinuance of the service?
Well, the discontinuance of the situation is that most of us started going to different cities to live due to family matters.
Okay.
I myself continued on for about another 8 months myself. Still they supported, but they supported from a long distance. And so after that is when I ran into a brother and a sister who had got out of prison, and they had their own transition facility, and we tried to work with them, but due to complications on their end, it didn't work out.
Okay. And so is that about the mid-90s or?
Well, that was it. Yeah, you can say at the beginning, we started like in 90, but 95 was our polished moment.
Okay. And so as far as any reentry service or helping people returning home from prison, after you couldn't work out or negotiate the right type of program with this couple that you've mentioned, do you know of any services that existed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, particularly, for the Muslim population coming out of prison?
No, I don't know of any. And as you and I know, the people who tried doing something that captured audience that you and I captured, they wanted nothing to do with those type of people. So it wasn't in their forecast to have a transition facility. It was just something to be seen of the people.
Okay. Well, I reiterate to those who don't know, I am the founder of Human Faith, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's known for doing community and transitional housing for the homeless. And by virtue of serving the homeless population, you would capture those coming out of prison with nowhere to go. So that launched in April of 2010. So, so from the time that you all were doing things, there seems to be, man, it sounds like almost a 15-year gap. Is that true?
Yeah, what you have to realize at that particular time, they had stuff like faith-based groups, faith-based communities. And from Washington, D.C., it was put out there on the front line that they had faith-based monies to help folk coming home from prison. But they was not sponsoring organization. And let me reiterate something. I have never been a 501c3, but my first job was from a church called First Presbyterian Church in Richardson. and they really supported everything that I did. I can remember when they tried to give me some money and I gave it back because I wasn't doing anything at that particular time. So I just want to say the way that it is now, it was nothing like that back then because there was no organization. Now, most people talk about the Tory program through TD Jakes, but I've seen people who actually was turned down from trying to get into that facility because of religious matters or religious status, or however you want to put it. So, no, it was no transition facilities back then. We had, we had stuff like the employment, because they was, I can't think of the name of it. You probably can think of the name of it, Baquee, where they was giving out monies for people to take trades and stuff, but they wasn't giving them places to stay.
I think that was the DARS, man. Was that DARS?
No, DARS come along 10 years later after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, doors or DARS, whatever that was.
Okay.
But
okay.
Let me say this here to the audience. The way that transitioning halfway houses are set up now, when I wouldn't even say now, I would say when Baquee come on the scene, it's no longer set up like that. People have turned transition houses helping ex-offenders into a man, I can't even think of the name of it. It's boarding homes. So they're not getting the same, I say, respect as they was getting when we first started this thing from a reentry standpoint. And we have to understand that when we talk about returning citizen, returning citizen is not even compatible to what I would say me and Baquee was doing, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
So it's nowhere near that, as we talk about now, because people are not getting the same respect or the same honor that they was given as you and I was given back then, sir.
So, to your knowledge, and again, you're from the area. Are there any other Muslims or Muslim organizations that you are aware of that has attempted or maybe even currently are addressing the housing issue for people who are coming out of prison with nowhere to go?
Well, I can only say, and I say this with fortitude, I can only say you are the closest. What you did during the time period that you was doing it was the closest I ever saw from a Muslim perspective that did something. No other organization. And I have to say this before I turn the mic back over to you. I think you could have did more if you'd have had the support as some of these churches having or some of these other people having.
Okay.
But so, I guess the answer to that is no other organization that I can think.
No. So now there's an opportunity because you opened up talking about the empowerment center in Oak Cliff. What are the visions there to rectify the situation?
Well, the vision is your vision and my vision in order to try to come in and complete a program that has never been completed here in Dallas, Texas, period.
Okay.
That's in the mission of that is to do something that has never been done in Dallas, Texas.
Understood. So what kind of support is needed?
Well, the support that's needed is that whatever support that Human Faith did not get, or Akbar 3000, or the Hallway House did not get, is what we need now, as far as having a place for people to come home, which we're not at the status to have the money to buy homes or to buy homes for these people to come home to. But I will tell you, when you have people coming home after 10, 15, and 20 years, they need stability. They need a place to go to without being pressured to pay rent because they don't have money. As you and I know, people coming out of prison now, they only get $50. They can't even go nowhere and stay. Where can they stay? Where can you stay for $50, bro?
Exactly.
You know, so I think the answer to that question is that we need support when it comes down to those bigger organizations who are getting that money from the federal or the Washington D.C. That's the type of support we need. They're not able to do what we do. They don't capture the audience that you are not capturing. So I think if they gave us the money that they have, not just gave us the money, but if we had the resources, the necessary fundings that they have now, I think we can be successful within a year's time.
Yeah. So
in
my talks with you, you have repeatedly shared with me that reentry starts on the inside. What does that look like?
Okay. For anybody in Texas who have ever been to prison, we know that when people go to prison, they go not knowing that there are barriers, even if they copped out for 5 years, 2 years, that there are barriers that they're going to face when they come home. Most people are not educated enough to that, and so when you go into these prisons, we need to become a mentor, or we need to become a service to those that don't know what we know of the barriers that they're going to face when they get out, or the consequences that they're going to face when they get out. You know, you could have kids that go to school and you're not even able to go to their school to support them in PTA meetings because of your conviction. You're not able to vote because of your conviction. Some of us not even able to walk our kids to school. Our kids. Not somebody else's kids, your kids. You're not even able to do things with your kid because of the conviction. So those are collateral consequences and damages that we face without even knowing. So we need to be able to go in as a reentry mentor, student, or whatever you want to call us, to tell them what they're actually facing, and to write their senators and to write their courts and let them know, look, I've served my time. My time is over with. So why should I be stagnated with these consequences, or why should I be denied certain things after doing my time? So we need to be going into these prisons for these people get out at least a year before they get out, letting them know what they're facing, to show them or to tell them they need to be writing resumes. I run into this a lot. Well, they've been locked up a long time, but you worked in the kitchen. They have kitchens out here you can work. So your resume should be based on what you're doing while you're in prison. We have to get out of that. We have to get out of that underdog thinking to say, hey, we can't do such and such and such and such. Because as you know, Baquee, we have had jobs out here that we wasn't even supposed to have and been in prison.
Yeah.
Because we didn't let that stigma narcotize us or burden us down. We went on for what we knew. And people in prison needs to know that. That's a myth, and it's been sitting there for years that's going to deny you your right to even try to get a job. And what that does, that makes people lazy. Oh, man, I can't get a job. I can't vote. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can do all of that. You know it.
Right. Well, definitely what I heard you say is that it starts in prison, and we need a presence in prison to provide our brothers and sisters with this reality and to help them prepare for what they're going to see and the obstacles that they will face, and then we can support them through that process. There's a shortage of volunteers from the Muslim community. Okay. Now, mind you, I want to say that shortage is, we could do better, but that shortage is by virtue of us being a minority in this country. Muslims only make up 1% of the United States. And most of us live in metropolitan areas. And in trying to reach these prison units, you have to travel. And I realized that not everyone can jump on that bandwagon or have the time and capacity to do it, even though you and I find that time and capacity. I'm speaking for myself. It's very taxing on me, and it's a financial strain for me to get to different parts of Texas. And I have tried to make the case and to appeal for support to just travel in order to provide the types of service that you have mentioned that needs to happen on the inside. Is there anything that you would like to say to anyone that might catch this talk or this video in regards to supporting in that respect as well?
Yes, let me put this at the front of that conversation that you started off with. As I always say to you, Baquee, we need a seat at the table. We need a seat at the table when city councils meet. We need a seat at the table when the mayor is speaking. We need a seat at the table of the parole board, because the thing is that there's a lot of things that's absent when it comes down to meeting for these prison reentry programs, prison policies, or whatever. We need a seat to be recognized in every city that ex-offenders are coming back to. Baquee, if they're putting data out saying that there's 600,000 people a year being released from prison, they don't have what? Okay, you letting these people go, but what's the plan? So I asked you, if they was letting 600,000 a year go, and they told you to deal with 10 of them, don't you have a plan for 10 people?
Sure.
Okay. So, but they letting 600,000. You read it. You see the data. You see the data. So they don't have a plan. So what are their intentions letting these many people go, knowing that they say within 3 years' time that most of them coming back?
Understood.
So that seat at the table allowed us to have this type of conversation that we're having right now, to let them know that they're setting these people up for failure. I want to say to you and the audience is this. And I ask a lot of brothers just and sisters that been to prison when they come home. I say, man, have you ever read on the back of your parole paper? You know, you have I think about 24 violations, 24, I don't know the right
conditions
on the back of that paper, right? Mm-hmm. I'm asking you, Baquee, and anybody that may want to answer this, what is the first 3 conditions on the back of that sheet?
I don't remember them in order, but I would say residence and address.
Okay, what about the part that say you can't be around other ex-offenders?
Right. There is a stipulation not to be around, affiliated with other people who are basically on parole.
Okay, so what do that do for an individual that's trying to come home?
It potentially alienates them from a lot of people if they're coming back to familiar communities.
Okay, but my thing is that if you are making parole, right? These people go to your house and they say, "Oh, do you know Baquee Sabur?" And then your mom will say, "This is hypothetical. I'm saying, yeah, that's my son." Well, they're gonna say, "Well, how many people in your household?" She said, "Well, there's 4 people in my household. Who are they?" I'm not saying your brother named Larry, but I'm just giving an example. But Larry and Susie. But Larry and Susie been to prison, right? Okay, so what they do is they allow you to go to that house. But what did they just do to some of them stipulations on the back of that paper?
Violated.
Okay. You see what I'm saying? So the average Mike, Tom, and Mary, they can't go to their own houses because somebody never been to prison. But here's the key. When you're let go at the wall units or any units that they let you go, You step over that threshold with people who've been to prison. You stepping over there with people that's getting out the same day you getting out. But they'll violate you if they find you under the corner up under the tree with somebody else who's been to prison, right? But they just violated all your rights then. Are you familiar with the gerrymandering act?
Gerrymandering.
You know, they use the them brothers used to work for them folks to go out to look at how many people in your house and stuff, right? They use people who was in prison votes to bring the president in, to vote for the president. And you ain't never went to the voting booth.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that I think we should be at the table when it comes down to going to get policies and procedure change.
Okay. So with that being said, one of the things besides direct engagement with people who are coming out of prison through the empowerment center, that there should be representatives that are actually taking those roles to sit down with the entities that you're saying, local government, parole division, and stuff like that, to at least get them to look at these various policies that can cause one to violate or not be successful upon return.
And I agree with you 100%, Dan. But I always say this right here: that's that's your fault and my fault, because we're not doing this type of things. Because you mentioned to me that they have programs over there that you can go to every Tuesday or something like that, you know. But let me say this here before I go any further, because I don't want to lose thought. This Friday at the Empowerment Center at 3436 Sunnyvale, they're going to have a volunteer meeting there this coming Friday. No, let me rephrase that. It's going to be this coming Saturday. And volunteers, people are meeting over there. But I don't know. I try to wrap this around my brain, because me, Luke Mon, and Muhammad Bey did this. We need a coalition for this particular subject that you and I are talking about now. And we need about 12 people in that coalition in order to take on some of these subjects you and I are talking about now. Like going to Austin or whatever, sitting in on some of these city council meetings. And I agree with you 100%. Yeah, we need to become representative of Dallas, Texas, of the returning citizen program. If that make any sense.
Right. The center, is being facilitated, being brought to the community by the Muslim community. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what role do you think the Muslim community, we know what we need to do, what I need to do, what you need to do, and try to get at the table, as you said, to represent, with city government, local government, parole division, et cetera, so on and so forth. If you could speak to our Muslim community, what role would you like to see the Muslim community play in all of this?
I'd like to see the Muslim community start fulfilling all avenues on what it takes to make the returning citizen program a better program.
Okay.
I like to see I still like to see people like me and you. We need to be spearheading a weekly meeting, teaching those people who are Muslim that don't know what you and I know.
Understood.
So you can call it a coalition or whatever you want to call it. I think it's an education piece to where you and I are needing to be teaching every week to those people.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. You know, running Human Faith for the past 13 years, in the beginning and in the middle, I've always looked at the lack of support from the Muslim community. I thought originally that it was a discrimination issue. I thought it was along those lines. But in the last 5 years or so, pondering over it, I'm in agreement with you. It's a misunderstanding issue. It's a lack of education issue. But even now that I see it for what it is, or what I believe it is, it's just that the greater Muslim community doesn't understand all the nuances of the communities that we serve. We do need our community to practice some humility, because you are proposing that we sit down and educate. Now, in order for us to sit down and educate anyone, they have to have the humility in order to be taught or to learn what it is that we know.
See, you know, Baquee, you always say this here, and I echo what you say, is that the majority of the Muslim community, and I really hate even putting the Muslims in front of this conversation we are having. I would like to put the people of creation,
Okay.
God-fearing people. See, you know, even some of the Christians say, you know, they know Esau people by three things. They visit the sick, they visit the sick and the people in the hospital, and they feed the homeless, right?
Yeah.
Even if that's true, that actually apply to us too as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, I must say this right here. You know, you have basic needs that every human being are in need of. When you really fully look, Malcolm said this here, when you really look at the Star Spangled Banner, or you really look at the Constitution, how can you be denied housing? Or how can you be denied food? And that's from a Tanner or food stamp places, right? See,
Right.
we don't even want to talk about voting, because I can, you know, we'll be here all night talking about that. Don't even apply to me and you. You know, when you look at the 13th Amendment, when it's talking about how the Afro-American man was 3/5 of a human being, they didn't have the right then to vote. But voting is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm just saying some of this stuff that we're trying to embark upon, like it says in the Quran, it says that some of our hearts are blacked out because we don't want to take the clear ayats. We want to embark upon the ayats that's difficult. So even, I said that to say this, even in the returning citizen stuff, the reentry stuff, it's clear paths out there that we can take and use in order to do more on what we have did in the last 20 years. But we want the difficult stuff. We try to attack the difficult stuff. It's imperative to understand that a person needs a place to go. But when you look at policies and procedures, they break this stuff all the time. They'll bring a man home after 20 years and just dump him out on the street in front of the bus stop downtown and just let him go. 20 years, that person has been gone. Probably that lost his mom or dad or whatever. Nowhere to go, but they'll drop him or her off downtown. What do that create? In the woman, it creates prostitution. It creates a whole lot of more things because she's going to do what's necessary to be done. And
Exactly.
us too. And us too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So the
Lack
thing
of
about it is,
yeah.
somebody's going to have to say, well, look, this ain't right what you're doing. In the last 7 years, you didn't come up with tiny housing. You didn't come up with the Salvation Army. You didn't came up with all these places, but you do this stuff in order to keep your grant money coming in.
Mm.
Somebody got to break this thing down. I don't even know if this conversation you and I are having now have anything to do with what we first started off talking about when you talk about reentry. Because the Tory program, they want to deal with people when they come home and call it reentry. What reentry do Akbar need when he get out? And he already fulfilling his own way of life by going to get his own job. How many of us know what the parole officer actually job is? Or what qualify a person to claim to be a parole officer? When you're dealing with people who have mental problems and you don't even have 25 hours worth of psychology, or you don't know how to deal with a person that have a mental problem. The police have also in Dallas, Texas expressed that when they call the police on someone, they don't even know how to deal with a person when the person tell them, their mama tell them he have a mental problem or she have a mental problem. First thing they do is do what? Pull their gun and shoot the person. Same thing on the other side. The parole officers don't know how to deal with them. They pull their gun by what? Sending them back to prison or violating them. These are the type of things that's not being expressed. And on that note, the parole officers that I'm talking to now, after the open house, you may want to express when the open house is. They want us to come in and talk to them about the center over there because this is one of the first centers in Dallas that a person, if they had a problem at 12 o'clock at night, and you know this because I hear you done talk to me, man, you've been talking on the phone, and then you said, well, boy, I got to go over here and try to straighten the situation out over here. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. But now we have a center, and this center is supposed to be getting a van so where we can go pick these folks up and at least bring them to the center, talk to them, and then probably hold them till the next day until they can get the professional help that they need.
Inshallah. So I heard something very important in what you said. You was talking about the qualifications or the job duties and job descriptions of people, especially in parole. So it sounds like we are going to be not only advocates, but sort of monitoring, if you will, for lack of a better expression, trying to monitor or to ensure that the people who are supervising folks that are coming home from prison have the right sentiment, have the right education, and they are committed to their job description.
Let me say this to you, Baquee. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or any kind of education degrees that they have to put in front of your name or behind your name or whatever to deal with someone who's coming home from prison. If you was in prison and you got out and the success that you have now, it don't take education to explain your success to that person on what they need to do when they come home. Mm-hmm. You need to just become a mentor to that individual and say, this is what you can't do and shouldn't do, brother. Get in my car, let's go over here to the warehouse and get you a job. People are hiring, but most of us, and I say this here with fortitude, brother, most of us have a stigma in our mind that we can't do certain things because that's what's there.
Right.
It's there.
Right.
Baquee, I'm retired from a church. You know my story. But those people saw the character and the humanness in me in order to allow me to continue my job. But most people won't go to a job because they have it in their mind that they won't be hired because of what?
Their background. Yeah.
Their background.
Understood.
You see what I'm saying? So we got to change that dynamic in a lot of people's thinking. That's where the reentry comes in, that right there, or going in like you do over on the pre-release unit over there.
Okay.
You know, you go in as a Muslim talking Islam, but you giving them real life experience, real life challenges.
Absolutely. And that's what I was asked to do. I was recruited to do just that, to deal with life on life terms.
Yes.
So I think you mentioned, before we forget, you mentioned that there's an open house. So do you want to make that announcement about the open house?
Okay, yes.
I think it's the 23rd.
Okay, let me try to read as much off this flyer as I can. It ain't long. It's going to be a grand opening at the Oak Cliff Empowerment Center. It says, join us to hear about upcoming community programs at the center. Support group for survivors of gun violence, mentorship for at-risk youth, support for returning citizens, free legal and medical services, food pantry, new Muslim support, and street dawah. Saturday, 23rd of September, 2023, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The address is 3436 Sunnyvale Street, Dallas, Texas, 75216. Again, that's on a Saturday, the 23rd. But let me put in front of that, on this coming Friday, which is what, the 18th, 16th, or something of that.
I'm looking it up. Go ahead, though.
Okay, so Saturday, there will be a volunteer meeting there. So anybody's welcome to come out. Brother, you know, you may want to become a volunteer, but they're having a volunteer meeting. And I think this is where we can express most of this conversation we're having now in this podcast, what this is, that we can express then and educate them people over there that's not as educated as you are about reentry.
And just for clarity, that's Saturday the 16th.
Okay, Saturday the 16th.
Saturday the 16th, 2023. Yes. Saturday the 16th. This coming Saturday, the 16th, yes. September 16th, yes. 2023.
Yes. I want to make that known.
Okay. And so, I have to say that in 13 years of doing human faith, I've been in a lot of meetings. I've talked to a lot of people. I would have to say the most consistent conversation that I've had in 13 years is with you. And so when I heard that you were going to be involved in reentry at the Oak Cliff Empowerment Center, it was sort of a no-brainer for me that I would offer or render assistance in as much as I'm able, or in whatever capacity I'm able to do so. I mentioned that because of the consistency in the conversation. Since I've known you approximately 14 years ago or something like that, this conversation has not ceased. And so I know where your passion is on it. I know how serious you are about it. I know how studied you are on the issue. And so I don't put myself out there often or extend myself to a lot of people because I don't hear that consistency. A lot of people waver in what they want to do, or just what they want to participate in. So I just wanted to kind of make mention of that. For me to even have the conversation and stuff like that, it speaks to your passion, your sincerity, and consistency in the conversation and in trying your best to address the issues. I don't know how long we've been on, but it might be time to wrap it up. Do you have any final comments or anything that you want to say that you haven't said?
Yeah, I want to tell you this right here. I have two gentlemen now, and one is coming home in October, and one is already home, but he violated in the Hutchinson transition facilities over there. You know that, brother. You and I know. Mm-hmm. So, but the one that's coming home in October, his sister told me today that they could give me the money now, but he does not want to go home first. He wants to go to a transition house or somewhere until he can continue to get himself together. So if you know of anybody who have a place for this young man, the rent is out. The rent is going to be paid by his family, so that's not the problem. If you know of anyone, then please let's help this young man. If you know, and let me go back and say something about Baquee Sabur, our audience. He talked about me being in this center over here, but he needs to really express what my expression was on what I was gonna do before I did anything. And I'm not going in this thing without him, so I respect what you know, brother. So, regardless of what people may say or think, I respect for what you know.
Alhamdulillah.
And I think that I think that we can get a lot done if we just stay focused.
Inshallah. You said something that I can't let go of before we get offline. And as far as helping that young man and housing him, we'll have that discussion offline too. Okay. But you said something that's important, I think, for people to understand and to know. You did not say that this young man is homeless. You didn't even say that this young man doesn't have somewhere to go. You said that this young man would rather not go home and to go somewhere else so he can further get himself together. Help our brothers and sisters understand why a person would make such a decision.
Okay. Let me give you from my understanding on why I think he wished not to go. His sister have kids. He's been away for 20 years, and he just needs to have a feeling of what he needs to do when he comes out here in this society. What we're not understanding is this, audience and Baquee, we're not understanding that regardless if you was not in solitary or what, but you did 20 years looking at the same walls every day. So he's recognizing that he have a problem. And he recognizes, okay, I learned this from you, brother. The beginning of your journey is to say, I need help. The beginning of a journey is, I need help.
Absolutely.
I learned that from you. And I'm not a drug addict. But I know I have problems like everybody else. But until I go back and purify my heart, it's not going to work. You and I know brothers that know this Quran and know this deen better than you and I know it. But they still have a problem. they hadn't addressed
Sure.
that darkness. They hadn't addressed that darkness. So maybe this brother is addressing his darkness and need a place to go to talk to brothers like you and myself before he went to his family.
That's a great assessment. I'd like to add another scenario to it, not pertaining to this particular brother, but some other brothers and sisters who make those decisions. Some make that decision because they know what they're coming back to.
Yes.
Some make a decision because they know they're coming back to the same old drug-infested neighborhood, and the people around them or that would be around them haven't changed a bit.
Right.
Since they've been gone, and they just don't want to get tripped up. And so some seek refuge, right? They seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They seek refuge in the Muslim community, and they seek refuge in whatever communities they want to attach themselves to, so they don't have to be bombarded with the same madness that they left.
Now, let me add something to that. This is what his sister told me. She said, Akbar, whatever my brother's doing in prison, it have affected my whole family because we follow his lead.
Wow. Wow. Very profound.
Ain't that deep, bro?
Very profound. And what a burden. And what a burden for a brother. I don't know how much time he's done, but what a burden for him to come out day one and have that expectation on him.
Yeah.
You know, but so I commend the brother to want to get grounded before he returns to his family. Well, I think, I haven't been watching the time, and I don't know how long we've been on here, but I suspect that we've been on here long enough if we're going to hold anybody's attention to what we're talking about.
We need, and I hope that anything that I said that's a benefit to somebody, alhamdulillah, that it will penetrate them. And if you want to give out my number, brother, somebody have questions for me, that's sufficient too. Right.
All right. All right. All right. Any last words before we salam out?
Well, I think I've said enough.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Brother Akbar, again, as always, we talk all the time. It's a pleasure to even try to communicate this way so that we can both share something with the world. We pray that it be a benefit to anybody that needs it. And we just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to those things that pleases him. And that we always remember where we come from. That's why we do this. And like you would say in narrating the translation of the Quran, when you are free from your immediate task, still labor hard.
Yes, and it says twice. And it says that twice.
And twice. I should have said that twice. Well, barakallahu feek, Aki. And inshallah, we'll pick up on the next episode, with some other topic, inshallah.
Okay, brother, and call me as soon as you hang up.
All right. All right, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, everybody. Are we done?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so what do we? Okay.
I'm just trying to hang up. I'm gonna have to hang up, brother.
What do you?